How Nigeria, Black China, will rival China as the biggest manufacturing hub. Nigeria will have a larger population than the United States. It will be the third largest country in the world by the end of the century, after India and China, and the most densely populated large country, with more people per square mile than even India. It will have more Muslims and Christians than any other country on the planet. And if it can get its socioeconomic house in order, it may become the continent's first superpower. It has a lot of advantages that should help it do that. Resources, scale, talent, work ethic, and a democratic government. But it also has a lot of challenges. If Nigeria plays its cards correctly, it has the potential to become Africa's sole global superpower. It already has the largest economy on the continent, a sizable military budget, and a track record of regional engagement. It will also be the world's fourth largest country by 2040, after India, China, and the United States. Defense spending, on the other hand, has been drastically reduced, as evidenced by the recent defense review. It sends fewer peacekeepers to UN missions than Ethiopia, Egypt, and Nigeria. Population growth rates are much higher elsewhere on the continent, especially in Nigeria, where the population is expected to increase from 170 million to 320 million by 2040. Now, for the shocking part, despite the violence, red tape, and greed, Nigeria's economic success could rival that of China. The country could finally realize its enormous potential, and it follows the same path as China to success. The economy, that appears to be unthinkable, but this is only because the China we are familiar with is the China of 2019. Few of us remember China as a sleepy panda 40 years ago. After 5 East Asian economic miracles, it's easy to see China as part of a trend. It's difficult to envision an African economic miracle because none of us have ever witnessed one. It is not easy to transform an economy, but it is possible. China was one of the world's most backward and impoverished countries when Mao Zedong died in 1976. The GDP per capita, which is essentially a measure of average income, was around $200. Deng Xiaoping came to power 2 years later and deregulated the economy. It blew up. The average annual income is now approaching $10,000, and 850 million people have been lifted out of poverty. The transformation was completed in record time. Uche Orji, the CEO of the Nigeria Sovereign Investment Authority and a former Wall Street investment banker, says he first visited China in 1998. He returned 5 years later and found it pleasantly unrecognizable. Nigeria's numbers today are eerily similar to China's prior to reform. China's poverty rate in 1978 was 55%, almost identical to Nigeria's most recent statistics. Adult literacy in China was only 65% compared to 62% in Nigeria. Today, China has a near zero poverty rate and a literacy rate of 97%. If a comparison to China appears overly ambitious, what about India? Nigeria and India share several statistics. Both are former British colonies with a staggering number of ethnic groups, endemic corruption, religious conflicts, and a devoted and well-educated diaspora. Prior to 1991, India had a heavily regulated socialist economy with extreme perfectionism for domestic industries and infamous levels of red tape and bureaucracy. In the face of default, Prime Minister PV. Much of the case for Nigeria's potential, as with China and India, boils down to one word: size. Large countries have significant advantages over small countries in terms of economic efficiency and the ability to attract investment. The potential of China's massive domestic market, rather than its usefulness as a source of low-cost goods, drew foreign investment in the 1980s, according to Randy Boudet, DHL Express's regional director for West and Central Africa. Nigeria is the last major open market on the planet. Of course, Nigeria, like China in 1978 and India in 1990, has economic policies that stifle innovation and efficiency. The government has far too much power and far too little support, such as infrastructure and basic services. Off the record, one CEO says, businesses pray not to be noticed by the government. A constant parade of government types coming through my office trying to shake me down, according to another. According to Andrew S., Nevin of PwC, Nigeria's public sector is insignificant in comparison to that of most other countries. Factually correct. However, if Nigeria removes the barriers to growth, its economy may also explode.